Welcome to On the Record. I'm Matt Sheehan. I'm joined by Senator Tammy Duckworth to talk about where the American Rescue Plan now stands. Senator Duckworth, thank you so much for joining us. President Biden's $1.9 trillion COVID relief package already passed the House. Where is the Senate leaning on the passage of the American Rescue Plan? Well, the Senate parliamentarian says the minimum wage increase would violate some budget rules and shouldn't be included in this package. Senator Bernie Sanders said the Senate should just ignore the parliamentarian's advice. Where do you stand on this, and what is the Senate preparing to do when it comes to the minimum wage?
We can't talk about Illinois finances and not talk about taxes, property taxes specifically. Illinois ranks number 2 for the highest property taxes in the nation. What can our lawmakers do to kind of change that trend for us? Truth in Accounting said Illinois' finances were the second worst in the nation, saying that the taxpayer burden is $52,000. How can that be improved?
We also see them not dealing with problems such as violent crime in this country.
Any answer there for you when it comes to violent crime? Obviously in Illinois, here in Peoria, we've seen 34 homicides in the city. Chicago's seeing very high numbers. What do you think needs to be done from the federal level to make a change? And the president's Build Back Better bill currently at a standstill after Senator Joe Manchin wouldn't give his vote yes, obviously. You voted against it when it was in the House. Can you explain why? There were some reports floating around that you would make a run for the Republican nominee. Obviously, that didn't happen. What caused you not to run?
Carry-on, good morning to you. Now, it doesn't matter what party you're running in. Big money can have a big impact on the election process. Now, while it doesn't guarantee you'll be elected, it sure does help you get the word out about your campaign. Now, this is just day one that candidates can file. You can see a lot of the candidates in line here, ready to go. The doors open this morning at 8 o'clock. But if candidates are not here today, they do have until next Monday, March 14th, until 5 p.m. to turn in their petitions at the Illinois State Board of Elections. Hundreds of candidates hoping to earn Illinoisans' votes and get on the ballot for the June primaries. One of the most talked about races is for governor.
Reversing the damage that Bruce Rauner has done to our state. I mean, remember, when we came into office, he had an anti-worker agenda that he had left us with. He had broken down social services that people really needed.
Governor J.B. Pritzker is set to ramp up his re-election campaign, while Republican candidates hope to take the governor's mansion back.
Was an infantry officer and a prosecutor in the Marines, worked the trial of Saddam Hussein, got out, came back to Illinois.
They've got to feel safe or they're not going to live here. We've got to have a good education system or they're not going to stay here. And then obviously if we can't get our taxes in control, that's why they're leaving.
We've got a lot of problems. Highest property tax in the country now. That's ridiculous. That's unfair. So we've got to get more red in Springfield, and I think we're going to do that.
All 6 statewide elections are up for grabs, including Illinois Secretary of State. I spoke with 3 candidates Monday morning who are looking to replace the retiring Jesse White.
I'm very excited because I will be the first woman Secretary of State in our history. And as I file today, that is not lost on me on the history that we could be making as my little girl watches as we turn in these petitions today.
I tell people there are 2 people I keep my eyes on. Anybody say they want to be a preacher and anybody saying they want to be an elected official. So it's a calling on your life. And when you get that calling, you run. And that's what happened in this case.
It is a tradition. It's a tradition that I like to come myself and file myself to make sure everything goes okay in the filing process. And you're the one responsible for having your petitions and making sure that they end up where they're supposed to go.
Statewide candidates had to file at least 3,250 petitions, but no more than 6,500. Pain at the pump and in your pocketbook.
Our working families are hurting right now.
U.S. Senator Tammy Duckworth is unveiling legislation aimed to stop price gouging at the pump and to hold oil companies responsible for taking advantage of the American people.
The legislation I'm introducing would make it illegal for big oil to use the lack of choice and the war in Ukraine as an excuse to hike up the price of oil and gas on working families.
Senator Duckworth calling the oil companies' moves, quote, morally wrong. She says this isn't the first time it's happened either.
There was legislation that was worked on post-Katrina that looked at price gouging by the oil companies then as well. So this is not, a brand new idea. Unfortunately, it's not a brand new problem because oil companies have a history of doing this.
Now the Illinois U.S. Senator is calling on President Biden to create a gas price gouging task force, which would be chaired by Attorney General Merrick Garland. She also responded to a proposal made by Illinois Republicans.
Well, here in Illinois, I know some Republican state lawmakers want to cap the state sales tax at 18 cents a gallon. Do you agree with that idea?
So I am not opposed to a tax holiday, but I do want that tax money to be replenished. So I would support, a tax holiday on gas tax, for example, but I would backfill that with a tax on windfall profits of the oil companies.
Senator Duckworth officially introduced the bill yesterday. The Gas Price Gouging Prevention Act would make gas price gouging unlawful under the Federal Trade Commission Act. You can hear more from the senator on our website, ciproud.com. Carry on from the governor's race to multiple state representative races. The Illinois State Board of Elections says this year there have been more than usual petition objections. In the governor's race, GOP candidate Jesse Sullivan is having his petitions challenged. Documents from the Illinois State Board of Elections show a Matthew Costardo as the objector. Costardo is opponent GOP candidate Gary Rabine's campaign attorney. When WMBD asked Rabine why the challenge of Sullivan's petitions, Rabine said, quote, "We believe in election integrity, not only at the polling place on election day, but also getting on the ballot as well." The State Board of Election provided WMBD with the documents showing Costardo's challenge, alleging that Sullivan and his running mate Kathleen Murphy have an insufficient number of signatures to qualify for office. The challenge also alleges that some people are not registered voters and that some people signed the nomination papers with signatures that are, quote, "not genuine." The report also states that Costardo objects that the nomination papers have petition sheets that, quote, "demonstrate a pattern of fraud and disregard of the election code," end quote. 12 people were named in the challenge. Sullivan's campaign fired back at Rabine's team, saying, quote, "Corrupt Illinois politicians from both parties, and Michael Madigan in particular, have used these tactics for decades to rig Illinois elections in their favors." Later on in the statement, a Sullivan spokesperson said, quote, "We look forward to a swift victory in putting this political sideshow behind us," end quote. These objections are also impacting local candidates running in different state rep races. Tazewell County Treasurer Mary Burris, who is running for the 87th district, is one of the candidates being challenged. Burris told WMBD, quote, "The objection filed by Mr. Alexander is petty and frivolous and will be dismissed. I will be on the ballot and look forward to competing for Republican votes in my new district," end quote. The challenger listed is a Joe Alexander from Clinton, Illinois. And political newcomer Travis Weaver, running as a Republican for the 93rd district, also challenged. Weaver tells WMBD it's a tactic being used by his opponent, which is State Representative and Pekin Mayor Mark Luft. Weaver sent WMBD a statement saying, quote, "The challenge alleges that I don't live at the address I claim because it is listed as a wedding venue. There is a barn on the property that is becoming a wedding venue, but anybody can drive down War Memorial towards Kickapoo and see there is clearly a home." Weaver went on to say, quote, "The challenge also alleges I lived in Chicago until recently because that is where Caterpillar listed my office address. This is a shot in the dark. Everybody in Peoria knows that Cat was fully remote during the pandemic. I did hold a temporary residence there at one time, but my priorities were always in central Illinois, and I fully transitioned home once remote work began over 2 years ago," end quote. The State Board of Elections will make decisions on all objections April 21st.